While St Peter's Church is a beautiful Victorian church, the family vault here holds one of the most powerful and generally disturbing objects in literary history, tying directly into the dark themes of her work. It's all down to her husband, the poet Percy Bysshe Shelley.
The cremation itself was an act of high drama. The fire was so fierce it was white hot, reducing the body to nothing but ashes. But what surprised us all was that the heart remained entire.
Weird.
I know. He snatched the intact relic from the fiery furnace, burning his hand in the process severely.
And that relic, the poet's heart, was eventually given to Mary. She's said to have carried it with her for decades. And when Mary died, her son, Sir Percy Florence Shelley, the only surviving son of the poet, opened her desk box and found a package inside. The supposed heart, wrapped in silk, and a copy of his father's final poem, Adonis.
Actually, it's Adonais.
Hello and welcome back to Wyrd Wessex. I'm your host, Temu Barlin.
Craig? What are you doing in my house?
Oh, well, I thought as we did an episode on My Town Devises, we could do one on your town, Bournemouth.
You could have warned me beforehand, though.
Probably, but don't worry about it. I've written a script.
You can't tell me what to
Say. I knew you'd say that.
Actually, I was going to say do.
I know. I wrote that in the script too. See?
All right. All right. It says next I question how you got into my flat.
Yeah.
So?
Details. Let's just say a very helpful owl delivered a key. Anyway, shall we start the tour of your patch?
Yeah. All right. You want a coffee first?
Go on then.
We'll come back to him in a bit. Bourne Heath was also known as Wallace Down in the north and Little Down in the south and the east, and it was part of the Great Heath of central Dorset, which extended as far as Dorchester. It was surrounded by far older historically documented settlements like Kinson, Holdenhurst, both of which are listed in the Domesday Book. Hengistbury Head was a major Iron Age trading port and a site of a 12,300-year-old reindeer hunters' camp, which is mad thinking of, sort of reindeer in...
Yeah, you don't think of reindeers in Britain, do you?
Yeah, except, in December, I guess.
Yeah, but they fly here.
This is true. I was going to say it was they haven't been around since the Clay Hills got ripped away by that big flood. But when we became an island. But yeah, I guess they don't need to walk across, do they? They can migrate by flying.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this land is an ancient one, even if the town itself isn't. Now, the town of Bournemouth itself was founded by Lewis Tregonwell in 1810 on the barren heathland. Tregonwell is a very old family, and I believe a branch of the Tregonwells are the Lords of Edmondsham, which is around near Cranbourne and where the ATC is. So yeah, still a local family, all connected. So yeah, that was founded in 1810, and it was planned as a resort for health and leisure.
I mean, for its size, Andy, Bournemouth is kind of strange in the fact that it only has one official street, doesn't it? Orchard Street.
Yeah.
The original Victorian developers thought that streets sounded too common and they preferred roads and avenues, which is a bit snobbish of them, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, that's always sort of felt oddly restrictive for a seaside town, I guess. But all these pine trees that you see about, Bournemouth was quite famous for its pine trees. They weren't just there for decoration. They weren't already there. It was actually for their health benefits. It was planted for a medicinal reason. The air mixed with the pine vapour was meant to help people with chest problems.
How's that working out for you?
They literally engineered the air as a health cure.
Wow. So you're saying that Bournemouth is a meticulously planned, health-conscious Victorian resort built on ancient heathland that was once a domain of criminals?
Yeah, with only one street. And that leads us right back to a name that we mentioned earlier, the weird part of Bournemouth we're going to start talking about with the area's first famous face.
Yeah, let's talk about Isaac Gulliver, the Smuggler King. So Isaac Gulliver was the archetypal smuggler. Born in 1731, he essentially ruled the Dorset and Hampshire coast during the 18th century, a good few decades before Bournemouth was even founded. But here's the funny thing, he was actually born in Semmington, Wiltshire, which is quite near to my place. So he's a proper Wiltshire weirdo who came down here to run the biggest criminal enterprise the Bourne Heath ever saw.
And he wasn't just a petty criminal either, was he? He ran this sort of huge operation, reportedly shifting over £100,000 worth of smuggled goods per year, which in new money is like millions in today's currency, easily. And he was quite a gentleman. Apparently, he didn't tend to hurt people either. And his network stretched from Devon all the way to the Isle of Wight.
Mm. And his goods weren't just the usual brandy and tobacco, were they? His network was sophisticated. He smuggled silks, lace, tea, fine wine. He was a master of evasion with secret caches and hideouts scattered all along the coast, which is why that barren heathland around Bournemouth was so perfect for him.
Yeah, he was incredibly cunning. There's this great local legend about how he escaped when the authorities were closing in to arrest him. So, knowing they were after him, Gulliver pulled one of his most audacious tricks to date. He and his family helped him fake his own death. They held an elaborate funeral, closed casket, lots of mourners, big procession, and the customs officials, they just basically stayed and watched the procession come out. The man leading it even sort of took his hat off and bowed his head in respect to the deceased. So he was literally carried away right under the noses of these people that had come to arrest him, which is fantastic, you know.
It was very Ragnar Lothbrok.
He's very Ragnar Lothbrok, getting into Paris or getting out of your church.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was quite quite an audacious smuggler, which is what you kind of want in your smuggler and pirate figures, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've also heard he used coffins as part of the smuggling thing as well. So he'd fill coffins with various illegal goods, and no one would bat an eyelid because there's a coffin.
Yeah, that's it. It's like,
yeah. But yeah, I mean, he also had a kind of legendary home, didn't he? Gulliver's house in nearby Kinson, which was a sprawling fortified house that looked unassuming from the outside, but it was said to be riddled with secret tunnels and escape routes connecting to nearby farms and even underground passages leading towards the coast, which is perfect for a quick getaway if the authorities came knocking. He was untouchable for years, but here's the weird bit, the way it all ended. Most smugglers end up swinging from a gibbet. Gulliver, though, managed to secure a royal pardon in 1782.
He did. It's believed he used his vast wealth and connections to essentially buy his way to freedom. After that, he went legit and became a respectable financier and sort of property owner, landowner, developer. He died a wealthy free man in 1827. But Craig, the story of the Smuggler King doesn't just fade away. His spirit is still said to ride the land. Some folks say on dark, foggy nights, particularly around Kinson and the old coast routes, you can still hear the sound of a lone horse galloping. Could it be the ghost of Gulliver making that one final run to go and fetch some illicitly traded brandy or tea?
Yeah, well, speaking of defiance in death, we're leaving the smugglers' paths and heading right into the dark Gothic heart of Bournemouth. Our next stop is St. Peter's Church, and this is the home to the grave of Mary Shelley, the author of Frankenstein. While St. Peter's Church is a beautiful Victorian church, the family vault here holds one of the most powerful and generally disturbing objects in literary history, tying directly into the dark themes of her work. It's all down to her husband, the poet Percy Bysshe Shelley. When her husband drowned off the coast of Italy in 1822 and his body was washed up, it had to be cremated on the beach in Virago due to burial regulations. His friends, including Byron and Captain Edward John Trelawney, built a pyre.
And this is where the weird truly begins. The cremation itself was an act of high drama. According to Trelawney, the fire was so fierce it was white hot, reducing the body to nothing but ashes. But then, Trelawney claimed, the fire was so fierce as to produce a white heat on the iron and to reduce its contents to grey ashes. The only portions that were not consumed were some fragments of bones, the jaw and the skull. But what surprised us all was that the heart remained entire.
Weird.
I know. He snatched the intact relic from the fiery furnace, burning his hand in the process severely.
And that relic, the poet's heart, was eventually given to Mary. She's said to have carried it with her for decades. And when Mary died, her son, Sir Percy Florence Shelley, the only surviving son of the poet, opened her desk box and found a package inside. The supposed heart, wrapped in silk, and a copy of his father's final poem, Adonis.
Actually, it's Adonais. Sorry.
What he said. But could it really have been his heart? Historians have questioned how a heart could survive the heat. Some argue it had calcified due to earlier tuberculosis. Others, citing an 1885 New York Times article, theorise it was actually his liver, which was saturated with seawater and therefore more incombustible. But it could have been anything.
Yeah, ultimately, it doesn't really matter, I suppose. The beautiful, horrible truth is that Mary thought it was his heart and kept that gruesome preserved relic with her through the rest of her life, which Yeah, he's one of the most goth things I've ever heard of, to be
A
honest.
true weirdo.
True weirdo. Making her an honorary co-host. Sounds disrespectful saying it.
Should have bought the Ouija board.
That's it. So I think around Halloween you got to like line up to do that here, though. It's like a mecca for goths. Her son kept it at Boscombe Manor for nearly 40 years before it's finally interred in this vault with her. Interesting side note, Boscombe Manor, the house that was actually built for her but she never got to live in, she passed away, is currently my doctor's surgery. Half of it's a doctor's surgery, half of it is a theatre.
Weird.
Yeah. And when Becky drags me to yoga, actually I drag her on the Sundays, when they run it at yoga in the park on the Sundays, it's in what would have been her garden. And the vault got even more radical, as the remains of her fiercely intellectual and radical parents, Mary Wollstonecraft and William Godwin, were also moved here from a London churchyard. A family reunion of literary, political and Gothic revolutionaries all lying right beneath the floor of a Bournemouth church. The weird is strong here.
From the solemn silence of the church, we're now heading to the centre of civic life, Bournemouth Town Hall. Is the kind of imposing, stately building you wouldn't automatically think of as a hotspot for the supernatural.
You wouldn't, but its history is key. It didn't start as a town hall. It was a former hotel, which was then converted into a huge military hospital during the First World War. And that period of intense emotion, life and death, seems to have left its mark on this place. The most frequently cited haunting here is the spectre of a World War I nurse. People report seeing an apparition dressed in a nurse's uniform, often described as gliding along the corridors.
Weird. And the basement is heavy with residual tragedy. Down there, a World War I soldier appears once a year, a ghost caught in a weary loop, said to be taking a drink from the sink. A drink from the sink.
A drink from the sink, thirsty
Yeah.
ghost.
And he shares that space with the chilling tale of the three brothers, children who tragically perished in a fire when the building was still a hotel. There's also the restless ghost of a 10-year-old girl spotted endlessly pacing the staircases, and a shadowy phantom cat roaming the grounds.
Got to catch those phantom mice somehow. And then we get to the truly inexplicable Craig. The high point of the weird is on the 4th floor, where we have the ghosts of a headless moaning Maharaja, clad in full ornate Indian uniform, reportedly sitting on a chair.
Wait, what? You're having me on, the ghost of a headless Maharaja in Bournemouth.
Yeah.
How do you lose his head?
Should have been more careful, I guess. You can leave it anywhere, I suppose. I don't know.
How's he moaning without a head?
I have no idea. Sort of throat hole sounds. I don't know. But you got to admit, it's a pretty unique ghost, right? As ghosts go. Headless Maharaja that moans.
Definitely unique, and a good note to leave Bournemouth on, I think. So let's move west to the ancient port of Poole, a town with deep roots in maritime life, piracy, smuggling and trade dating right back to the Iron Age.
Fantastic. I hear there's something on there in Poole later on as well.
Possibly.
Right then, to the Weirdmobile.
No, I thought we'd get on the train.
Right. The Wyrd Wessex public transport tour. Here we go. Our first stop is one of the most haunting buildings in Dorset, the Crown Hotel on Market Street. What kind of spectral clientele does a place like this attract?
It's actually quite tragic, Andy. So the cornerstone of the haunting goes back to the 17th century with the deeply disturbing legend of the ghostly twins. The owner of the inn allegedly gave birth to 2 disabled children, and out of some weird social shame kept them chained and hidden in an upstairs room.
You've got a knack for finding the dark in these things, don't you?
After they perished, some say unalived by their parents, it's claimed the parents secretly buried them under the floor of the inn's larder, and today their energy remains. Guests and staff frequently hear the unsettling sounds of children crying, yelling, and even innocently playing, echoing across the empty courtyard at night.
And there's an entity that seems to patrol the upper floors as well. The experience often starts when a bedroom door rattles violently, and then you watch utterly dumbfounded as the door handle slowly turns and the door creaks open with nobody there. The sequence culminates in this bizarre flash of energy as the cold chill passes by the witness. A distinctive blue light floats out of the room, glides down the hallway, and then visually sort of melts into the wall.
One of my favourite anecdotes is the guest who was having a perfectly mundane chat with a man in the toilet, only for the man to suddenly and dramatically vanish before his eyes.
Oh, just stop. Seriously, come on.
I see, so toilet spectres is a line too far for you?
Well, it's just so, unbelievable. Who walks into anyone when they're sort of in the toilet who talks to anyone in the toilet. Sorry.
I see. So it's not that the ghost that's unbelievable, but the chat in the loo.
I don't know. I think it's a bit sus.
Anyway, they say the shock was so intense that the staff had to calm the shaken witness down with a restorative glass of brandy. And that's how you know it's a good ghost. It makes the customer need hard liquor, right?
So if I go and tell the staff in there I've seen a ghost, you think they'll give me a free drink?
All right, enough of your freeloading, Andy. Let's talk about the real reason Poole is such a weird hotspot.
The sea air, the history, the layers upon layers of maritime misery and illicit activity.
Precisely. Poole Harbour and the surrounding coast were an absolute smuggling central, weren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Flourishing from the 17th to the early 19th century, it's where the legitimate trade blurred into the thoroughly illegal.
Yeah, it was. We can't mention smugglers without bringing up the most famous local legend of Black Peter, a figure synonymous with the darkest of the illegal trade routes. But Poole's maritime mischief goes back even further, long before these sort of smugglers. Poole has had a strong, often bloody connection to privateering and outright piracy. And Poole had its own genuine local rogue, Captain Harry Pay, or Henry Pye. He's a 15th century privateer known as Harry Pay to the Spanish.
Or Harry Pay?
All right, Harry Pay. I didn't do that in too much of a Spanish accent, admittedly. He raided the coasts of France and Spain, earning his living through maritime plunder. His exploits are still celebrated here today.
So we're outside the King Charles Inn now, and unfortunately we don't have time to go in for a pint, but it is the location of one of Poole's most sorrowful and dramatic tales. It begins with a landlady who fell in love with a sailor. When his ship was caught in a storm, she believed him lost forever. She was so devastated, she decided to hang herself off a wooden beam upstairs in the pub.
Yeah, but in a cruel twist of fate, the sailor survived, didn't he?
He did. Now, the sailor was alive. His ship was just delayed. He arrived in Poole the following day, rushed to see his fiancée and found her dead, hanging from the beam. In a moment of absolute despair and grief, he cut the rope down and then stabbed himself in the heart right there.
Jesus Christ, trigger warning, Craig. Bloody hell.
I know, but listen, so the pub is reportedly haunted by both of them. It's said you can hear the quiet, sorrowful crying of the female ghost, and the atmosphere in the upstairs room is thick with residual anguish. And the activity there is constant, Andy. It's not just the tragedy, it's actively weird.
Yeah, I've heard there are a lot of little things going on there day to day, from coins being moved around to people feeling nudges when there's no one nearby. You can often hear steps going up and down the stairs and strange sort of breathing, breathy sounds when the pub is otherwise empty. Before we leave the old port, though, we have to mention places where the darkness truly turned physical, the smugglers' tunnels.
Yeah, so we're moving from a ghost born of love to a tragedy born of purely illicit activity. The legendary labyrinthine network that supposedly riddles the ground beneath the old town. While skeptics will tell you that they're just deep cellars to combat the high water table, every weirdo in Poole knows the truth. This town was a notorious smuggler's central, and they needed more than a cupboard to hide their contraband. The tale of the Blue Boar Inn gives the tunnels a terrifying specific edge. It carries the ultimate grim warning, the story of a woman supposedly murdered right down at the Sub Pub Network.
Sub Pub Network, band name. I think that's our signal to transition from the historical, intense tragedy to a more contemporary look at the weird. Our past guest, director of the Boscastle Witchcraft Museum, Simon Costin, has curated a major touring exhibition for Wessex museums called Uncommon People, Folk Culture in Wessex. And the timing's brilliant, Craig. The Uncommon People exhibit is scheduled to be right here at Poole Museum from late October, which is now, as time of recording, to January 2026. Should we go and have a look?
It literally opened today, so why not?
I think that is the perfect timing. Let's go.
We are here with Simon Costin.
The Museum of British Folklore is a long-term project to establish the UK's first ever Museum of Folklore, focusing specifically on seasonal customs and events.
Yeah.
So it's not folk art particularly, and it's not folklore in general, like myths and legends and fairy stories and things like that. It's specifically the seasonal customs and events that happen in the UK. So barrel burning in Ottery St Mary, and Abbots Bromley horn dance, and the rush cart in Saddleworth, etc.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got hundreds of them in the UK, yet there's nowhere that if you've got a passing interest, you can go and find out more about, that it just doesn't exist. And I'm amazed that the Victorians didn't really. It's the sort of thing you would have.
Yeah.
William Morris might have put together when he's reimagining of Merry England, but they didn't. And I suspect it's because the way in which museums traditionally structure themselves by coming from the top down. So it's the academics with the knowledge, or the people with the objects, who present them to us, the lowly people. With a folklore museum, it's totally the other way around. It's the people who have the knowledge, and the people who've got the costumes and the traditions. So I think traditionally museums have shied away from that because they don't know how to contextualize it.
Yeah.
And also it's changing all the time. Folklore morphs and develops and grows or dies out, and something else comes. So it's very difficult for a museum to pin those things down. But for me, that's always been such a challenge, because you can work with that. There's all sorts of interesting ways, and we've been doing it by having touring exhibitions, or exhibitions in different venues. So we've been going to people like the Whitechapel Gallery in London, or the Towner in Eastbourne, or Compton Verney in Warwickshire. We have a very good relationship with Compton Verney, and putting on exhibitions that have never been done in the UK before.
Yeah. And so that is that going to ever have like a permanent location, or do you plan to keep that as a touring?
How much money have you got?
Not a lot.
Yeah. So no, the long term vision for the museum is for it to have a base, but what form that base takes is open to debate at the moment. What we're doing is taking some new trustees on board, and then we're going to apply for some seeding money, which basically means we do a feasibility study.
Yeah.
And that feasibility study will be a group of consultants that look at how it will run, where it should be, road and rail links, footfall, all those things. Spreadsheets, I imagine. There'll be dozens of spreadsheets. And then with that information, we can go to someone like the Heritage Lottery and say, okay, we need 10 million to build this, or we need 5 million to adapt an existing building, or we're going to have a storage with an exhibition space attached. So it's all, at the moment, it's all in flux.
Yeah.
Right, it's the morning after the night before.
It is.
It tends to be, I guess.
We left the folk museum, went for a beer, got some food, and then it was time to chuck Andy in the sea, apparently.
Yeah, the way you're close to consuming me.
Let's move this way. Yeah, and it was time for us to go and see Uncanny Live. So we didn't get to record anymore yesterday, and obviously we don't want to
spoil the show.
Yeah.
There was 6 news stories though, weren't there? Sort of submitted by people.
Yeah, so it's not anything that they've put out on the podcast or the TV show before. So if you haven't been and you can get tickets, it is worth going.
Yeah.
We did, you might have seen on our social media already, we did get to meet Evelyn, Kieran and Danny. Watch this space for potential future guests, shall we say? Wink, wink.
It's hoping, yeah.
But yeah, we did get to meet them before the show. But it was a very good show. It was entertaining. It was
was very good.
Quite sad at one point.
Yeah, it's a range of emotions and a range of subject matters. I'm not going to give it away, but it's not all ghosts,
Yes, and we can say that past Wyrd Wessex guest Eric Nelson may or may not briefly feature in a photo on the stage.
Indeed, yeah. Shout out to Eric. We gave a little cheer, didn't we?
We did. Yeah, I mean, the one thing I will say, so there was, as well as ghosts, like you said, there were a variety of topics, but there was a UFO and a cryptid in there.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because when they asked kind of the audience about Team Skeptic, Team Believer, it was often fairly 50-50, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe slightly skewing in favour of Believer a lot of the time, until they got to the cryptids. And disappointingly,
and maybe
Danny
on
stage pointed out that 2 people in the audience cheered for Team Believer. Can you guess who those 2 people might have been?
Shout out to Eric. But yeah, I mean, it does make us question sort of like, what we've said before about how UFOs are less believable in a lot of people's eyes than ghosts, and that wasn't necessarily the case in that audience last night.
Yeah.
But cryptids, it went completely the other way. Like all these believers were suddenly like, nope. Which, it was interesting, you know.
Yeah.
But it was very interactive, which I appreciated.
Yes. And it was. I thought maybe it'd be like an hour show or something.
Yeah, it was a long old show, but
a couple
it didn't.
of hours.
Yeah.
Maybe. I think it started at 8:45 and was done by about 10:15.
Yeah.
15 on here, so an hour and a half.
Oh no, well,
Yeah.
no, 7:45, wasn't it?
7:45. Oh, it was. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So yeah, it was 2.5 hours with an
Yeah.
interval. So probably a couple of hour show, I guess.
Yeah, it was very good. It was very good, very interactive.
Get some audience stories too, which would have been more unique.
Yeah.
There was a member of the audience who'd been on a previous episode. There was someone else who told a story about something that happened to them, and it was revealed by their father sat next to them that their younger brother had also experienced the same thing, and they didn't know about it. Yeah.
No, there was a moment where I was sort of trying to clock where they were, thinking, get to them, give them a card, get them on the podcast, and then Danny says,
Email the show.
email the show. We want to speak to you some more. So we might have been beaten to it. I don't know who'd be the more attractive podcast to go on, ours or Uncanny's, who knows.
We shall see. Time will tell.
But yeah, really good. I do recommend if you get a chance to go and see it, you do.
Yeah, I mean, that pretty much summarises kind of all the main stories that I could find on Bournemouth. I mean, there are a few.
Yeah.
There's a ghost here or there. There's some fairies up the other end, but they're very brief mentions, aren't they? There's a puma that someone saw. There's a Tasmanian wolf as well. Someone saw a Tasmanian wolf.
Tasmanian wolf.
Yeah. Do you not know that one?
Hang on, my brain did a bit of a... On the extinct?
Yeah, technically, but apparently not in Bournemouth because the lady saw one.
Fair enough. I'll keep my eyes out, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's
always wanted to try a Tasmanian wolf. Here it tastes like dodo. Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, you can go into lots of deep dives about these different things, and at some point we could do a Mary Shelley one or something like that. But yeah, there is one more story actually.
Yeah.
That I'd like to share. That kind of I didn't just bring you onto the beach to build a sandcastle.
Oh, okay.
He forgot his bucket and spade.
I did.
This story takes place in January in 1897. Now, it was quite a choppy night, as it often is in that time of year, and unfortunately, a steamship ploughed into something into the water. It was a blue whale.
Ooh.
Now, these things are huge.
You say my stories are bleak.
I know, right? It gets more interesting, a little less bleak. Well, maybe. And a little further up the way on the beach, it washed ashore. Now, this caused a big stir. You know, you don't get whales around here. And people sort of flocked around it. And I think any whale that washes up, it's sort of counted almost as treasure from the sea. So it belongs to the crown.
Well, there's ambergris, isn't there, which is worth a lot of money.
And at the time, that was a big thing.
Yeah.
So you had all these people clamouring to see it, and also people thinking, who's going to own it? Who's going to buy it? Eventually, it was purchased by a doctor for the grand sum of about 27 quid.
Wow.
Which was a fair amount back then.
Okay.
But it's one thing buying a blue whale, and the other thing is finding out how to move it.
Yeah.
So you've got this doctor who owns this blue whale.
Yeah.
Doesn't know how to move it, but in his mind he thought, yep, I can sell the bones to museums, I can sell the oil, the fat. And while this is going on, they're debating how to sort it out. People are coming down to the beach to see it. Local teachers are bringing their school kids down to come and not only do a biology lesson on it, but actually climb all over it. There was one...
Poke it with a stick.
That's it, poke it with a stick.
Gotta poke it.
You had my favourite quote actually is from a gentleman of the time who turned up and says, well, I've come 40 miles to see this here whale and I'm going to climb on it from head to tail. Which, you know, and I like to think he did the whole thing with a pipe in his mouth, just standing on top looking really proud. Like,
In a suit and tie.
Yeah, that's it. Very good.
Yeah.
And then people started to notice the stink, and it's never gone away. No, it started sort of rotting, obviously. It started decaying. There's reports of people actually falling into it, which is really gross.
Whoa.
And some customs men came down to, or, you know, sort of some guards came down to move it and get rid of it. But of course, the doctor, he's got an invested interest in this.
Yeah.
So he's got people that he's paid to guard it. And there was actually a standoff. There was a set to with people with clubs and fists. It was only broken up when one of the authorities shot a pistol into the air to sort of calm it all down. Eventually, they did get rid of the whale, but it was not for the price that the doctor was hoping. I think he just about covered his costs of buying the thing. He managed to get the bones taken to a local theatre where he tried to put on like an educational lecture, but barely anyone turned up. It turned into a bit of a farce. Finally, it did come to some good. The pier just behind us, the skeleton was taking up a good third of that pier, maybe more, and people for a good few years could come and see it. Eventually, it was sold off again. A lot of the bones were ground down to fertiliser, sort of bone meal kind of fertiliser. But a few of the bones were still kicking around. I think the last one was reported in a yard just up the hill somewhere there in the 1930s or 40s. But yeah, after that it disappeared. But there are photos of it around and various sculptures through the town. So people around here still do remember the Boscombe Whale.
Wow, it's quite a story. And is so that's the origin story of the first Bournemouth sushi restaurant.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, mammal, but you know, they'll take what we can get around here. So yeah, I mean, there's loads of stories, as I said, like you can do around Bournemouth and Poole and places like that. Because I mean, you've got Poole just down there, and then if you carry on further up the coast, around you get to Wareham and Swanage, and then if you go just round by those cliffs, round the other side, you come to see in front of you, you've got Weymouth and Portland.
Portland?
Yeah.
With the lighthouse?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, loads of folklore there.
The one with the mer chicken.
The mer chicken?
Yeah. You not heard of the mer chicken?
Is this a bit? Are you setting me up for something?
No, this is not a bit. This was written about in the 15th century. In the Hollingwood Chronicles.
Okay.
There's a story about a half man, half chicken.
Yeah.
That rose up out of the water. It crowed in the direction of north, south, east and west before returning down into the sea and was never seen again.
All right, so why would a half man, half chicken be in the sea?
Because he couldn't cross the road.
And it was definitely a half man, half chicken. It wasn't just a chicken someone had like this poor chicken.
Well, it's called a mer chicken. It's
thrown into the water zone and started trying to not drown. Like,
apparently, it was a half man, half chicken. It was capable of, I guess, standing on the water. But it could also breathe underwater, which I guess is what makes it mer, right? Is that what does mer mean?
Yeah, I guess it's sort of like comes from Latin, doesn't it? Like sort of mermillo and stuff like that. You've got that. Yeah, I think it's Latin or Greek, but that is, wow, a mer chicken.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that straight up pure like fantastical medieval beasts, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It's like I said, I think I've told you before. My favourite one was the godfish, one of them.
Yeah.
It's just a porpoise, but it tastes like meat. But it's obviously a fish.
Tastes like God.
So yeah, God sent it for us to eat something that tastes like meat on days we're not allowed to eat meat.
Nice.
I like it.
Yeah.
Do you want to go for a God curry?
Well, go and get me a coffee first.
Yeah, let's go get a coffee.
Right. I guess that about wraps it up for this episode.
Yeah. Witches Market.
Yeah, let's go and have a look around the Witches Market, and then I've got to head home. So I guess until next time,
Stay weird.